Chapter 225, Weapon of Thunderbolt. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. Zhang Yuochen was so badly injured that he had to sit down. Although Yin Yang and young Lord of Poisonous Spider were both repelled by the mysterious woman who suddenly showed up, Zhang Yuochen didn't down his guard. He held the fish intestine sword single-handedly and said, "Great cultivation." Perhaps even Seeks Sinkong, the top one of the 10 prodigies of the Omen Ridge, can't compete with you. Who are you? He. The slim woman with a veil chuckled. She was enchanting, with a soft smile, and her voice was like a magic bell, so alluring that it could affect the human mind. She just wore a layer of cyan chiffon and her perfect skin was partly hidden and partly visible inside it. Her breasts and hips were perky, yet her waist was outlined in a thin curve. Part of her jade-white legs and flawless beautiful feet peeked out from under her dress. Within her laughter was the power of charmful voice. This power meant that her voice could charm others and bring about illusions in their minds. If a warrior's spiritual power was not strong enough, the moment he heard her laughter, he would become confused and disoriented and, caught up in her illusions, would show all sorts of ugly behaviors. Once he was lost, he would have no chance to survive. But the allure of her voice was useless against Zhang Yuochen. Zhang Yuochen had a strong will and spiritual power. He said mildly with clear eyes, "Do you believe that I'll make your power of charmful voice backfire if you dare to use it again?" The laughter stopped. The woman with a veil glared at Zhang Yuochen and said softly, "I've heard of your great spiritual power, which is the top of the disciples of the school of the martial market. If my spiritual power is weaker than you, it's possible that my power of charmful voice will backfire. But I don't think you'll return kindness with ingratitude. After all, you owe me for saving your life. Don't you ever think of how to repay me?" Zhang Yuochen asked, "Why did you save me?" The woman smiled, "Because I want to recruit you into the moon worship demonic sect." Zhang Yuochen asked, "You know I am one of them?" Now it was her turn to be surprised. Zhang Yuochen said, "You just used the power of charmful voice. Who else could use this martial technique except for women from the moon worship demonic sect?" "Interesting. I didn't expect that you knew so much. I underestimated you before." The woman laughed. "Now that you know I am from the moon worship demonic sect and your life is still in my hands, what is your choice then? Join us or die?" Zhang Yuochen smiled and shook his head. The woman walked towards Zhang Yuochen and said with a cold voice, "Zhang Yuochen, I admire your talent and it's useful to us. That's why I want to spare your life. Don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. You think you've got me?" Zhang Yuochen was still calm and showed no trace of panic. The siren girl almost laughed in her exasperation. "Your injury is so serious that you could barely stand still. Do you have the strength to fight again?" "I can try." Zhang Yuochen answered. "Don't you realize that even if Yin Yang and young Lord of Poisonous Spider teamed up, they would not rival me? Do you still want to fight against me?" "Why not?" Zhang Yuochen asked. She looked into Zhang Yuochen's eyes and found that he was not joking. How impressive. Did he have a card up his sleeve? Fine. I'll take this opportunity to find out how many secrets he's hiding. The siren moved her body more than 10 meters to the side at a ghost-like speed. She stretched out an arm and spread out her palm to emit rays of white genuine chi to form a half-foot fly cutter. The genuine chi of a normal warrior of the Earth realm was too impure to form weapons. Only warriors on the Earth board could use their pure and profound genuine chi to form weapons imbued with incredible power. Besides, genuine chi-formed weapons were much easier to control. They could kill people without being noticed and disappear into a wisp of genuine chi at any time. The genuine chi-formed fly cutter seemed quite unreal. It was only a shadow floating above her elegant snow-white palm. Swish! With a twist of her fingers, the fly cutter shot at Zhang Yuochen like a white flash. Zhang Yuochen sat on the ground with his legs crossed. He closed his eyes tightly and a light beam burst out of his body. In the beam, there was a martial soul which looked exactly the same as Zhang Yuochen floating above his head. Only if absolutely necessary, would Zhang Yuochen use the power of the martial soul? He just used a little power of the martial soul when he practiced the space domain before. He had never activated the martial soul to show its form suspended outside of his body and control the spiritual chi in the world. Now he had no choice but to use the martial soul's power to survive. Weapon of Thunderbolt. The martial soul floating over Zhang Yuochen's head seemed like an illusory image of a god. Its hands made all kinds of gestures without a stop to gather spiritual chi within the space of hundreds of meters around. Manipulated by the martial soul, the spiritual chi that changed into threads of purple lightning. Countless lightning gathered together to form a weapon of Thunderbolt and it thrust toward the woman. Bam! The genuine chi-formed fly cutter was smashed into white smoke almost in the blink of an eye. The weapon of Thunderbolt was extremely powerful. After destroying the fly cutter, its force didn't diminish and the bundle of piercing purple light continued flying toward the woman. The siren let out a holler and stepped back immediately. In the meanwhile, she produced 5 genuine chi-formed shields, in an attempt to block the weapon of Thunderbolt. But the penetrating force of the weapon of Thunderbolt was so strong that it broke the shields in a moment and cleaved at the woman's white neck. Swish! The woman was fast enough to make a narrow escape by turning herself into a shadow. Then, she jumped to the top of an ancient building near the street like an elegant woman gracefully dancing and didn't dare approach Zhang Yuochen. She touched the veil with her jade-like fingers and realized that her veil was shorter than before. It had been cut off by the weapon of Thunderbolt. It was lucky that only the veil got cut. If her movement had been any slower, it would have been her neck that was cut. So awesome. The siren was scared. When she stared at Zhang Yuochen, who was sitting in the middle of the street with his legs crossed, she had the odd feeling that Zhang Yuochen was the center of the universe and everything was circling around him. You have mastered the martial soul? Looking at the illusory image of the martial soul, she felt it unbelievable. Other warriors' spiritual power were not strong enough to see Zhang Yuochen's martial soul. Yet the siren's spiritual power was above level 20. Naturally, she could see other warriors' martial souls. How could a warrior of the earth realm produce a martial soul? Normally, only warriors of the heaven realm could nourish their own souls with genuine chi to increase their power, which could become a martial soul once it reached a certain level of power. Only by using a martial soul could the spiritual chi of the world be controlled. The more powerful the martial soul, the more spiritual chi it can control. Zhang Yuochen had been a warrior of the completion of the heaven realm before. If his genuine chi has been adequate, with such powerful martial soul, he would have killed the siren with that strike. Zhang Yuochen raised his glance, staring at the elegant siren. Since you already know that I've mastered martial soul, I can't let you leave alive. Zhang Yuochen closed his eyes to control the martial soul with his strong spiritual power. The spiritual chi gathered around the martial soul again to form a weapon of Thunderbolt once more. PFFT. This time, the weapon of Thunderbolt contained more power than the last, covering the entire street in rays of quivering lightning. The woman's expression changed and she turned around to escape immediately. After several flashes, she had completely disappeared. A pleasant, floating voice came from the void space. Zhang Yuochen, we'll meet again. I will fight you once I master martial soul. Seeing that the siren had fled, Zhang Yuochen let out a long sigh. The thunderbolt that had been gathered burst apart with a crash, disintegrating into a lightning storm and spread out uncontrollably in all directions. Bam! A huge crater emitting black smoke appeared in the ground. The martial soul flew back into Zhang Yuochen's body automatically. His face was as white as paper and a trickle of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. It's lucky the siren was scared away, otherwise I don't dare imagine the consequences. Although the martial soul was controlled by spiritual power, Zhang Yuochen's martial soul was different from warriors of the heaven realm. Now, if he was to control the martial soul, he must connect to the vessel of spirit and provide it with genuine chi. Only then could he mobilize it. The first use of the weapon of Thunderbolt had almost consumed all his genuine chi. As for the second one, Zhang Yuochen was forcing himself to produce one even bigger than the first. Had the siren not run away, Zhang Yuochen's second thunderbolt might have killed her. but it probably would have taken his life as well. Only when I use it in the heaven realm can I control the martial soul with my spiritual power instead of my genuine chi. The siren actually survived my attack with the weapon of Thunderbolt. She really has great martial cultivation. Maybe she could count as the top rank in the young generation of the heresy. Zhang Yuochen took a pill to heal his wound and rest for a while. Feeling somewhat refreshed, he stood up again. He picked up a piece of light cyan chiffon from the ground, put it to his nose and sniffed it. Butterfly incense. Doesn't senior sister apprentice Juanmu like butterfly incense? The light cyan chiffon was cut from that woman, so naturally, it had her scent. Votes needed.